presented as always by First Commonwealth Bank here on WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Barb Hauge is here. Jeff Raykes is here. Barb, of course, has been here quite often recently with the WalkWorks program. Jeff with the Indiana County Department of Planning Commission. Good morning to both of you, and you brought someone with you this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We did, and we're excited to be here. Josh Ehrman is from the Pennsylvania State Boroughs Association, and I'm excited to introduce him because he's really the reason we're here.
Josh, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here in Indiana. So what are we talking about here? An event that's coming up tonight?
The event tonight, I guess, either Barb or myself could talk a little bit about. Barb, you're representing LINC, right? Which not too many people know about.
Right. LINC is a grassroots organization here in Indiana. It represents livable Indiana neighborhood connections, and we're advocates for safe pedestrian and bike connections in our community.
Which has been a particular focus here in Indiana for the last 2-3 years.
Yes. With the WalkWorks program, we're creating walking routes in our communities, and also with the multimodal corridor, the extension of the Hoodlebug into the borough. So all of those things are part of the advocacy that we focus on.
And Jeff, of course, the multimodal has been a concern for the Planning Commission here in the last couple of years, and folks keep wondering, when am I going to see something? When am I going to see bicyclists riding up and down the streets?
Well, we're close. That particular project involves White Township, the university, Indiana Borough, and the county. And so right now they're getting ready to go into an engineering phase. So they'll be engineering that route that will connect the Hoodlebug Trail into town. And you're right, we've worked on that for a long time, Todd, and we've been in here talking about it for a long time. So I'm starting to get embarrassed. I'm going to start sort of, because a lot of people were asking me about it. So it's just the wheels of government. So if it'll be, I would say we would have something here in the next year or so.
Yeah, so let's get this event out there first, and then we want to spend some time with Josh here this morning. It's called Complete Streets, Craft Beers and Conversation. It's happening tonight, 5:30 to 7 at Levity Brewing at 1380 Wayne Avenue in Indiana. And you've got a bunch of experts coming to this event tonight, don't you?
We do, and we're excited about it because really I think a lot of these ideas really come out of a community process. So the idea is to put people in the same room with folks that have been doing it for a long time and flesh out and unpack what it means for our streets to be assets and not just places for cars. I don't know, Josh, if you want to talk about the folks that you've recruited to get here, because we're pretty excited to listen to them.
Sure. Yeah, so we have Jeff Raykes, who's a engineer and planner with Whitman, Reichart & Associates, and Jeff's really a thought leader with the Complete Streets movement. And when I say complete streets, I mean, just as Jeff Raykes mentioned, streets that aren't designed purely for automobile traffic, but also consider pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users. And there's a lot of great statistics out about how when you design streets to accommodate all users, there's numerous benefits, a whole array of them. Believe it or not, it can actually help traffic flow. It can calm traffic and help public safety with roadway safety. And you also get some economic development benefits. Obviously, foot traffic along main streets helps local businesses when you have more people out to patronize local businesses. So Jeff's really a thought leader in looking how we redesign our public right-of-ways to accommodate streets and walkability on streets. And then Mark Hood is an engineer with Pannoni, and Mark's done a lot of training in Pennsylvania on regulations for streets. So between those two, I think we'll have a real good discussion following the class that we have going on this morning. And obviously a much less intimidating setting. Getting outside of the classroom into a local microbrewery is often a good time for people to kind of relax a little bit and talk about their thoughts for a vision for a community. So I'm looking forward to the event.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be wonderful. A couple of others who are going to be there. Justin Lehman, Public Health Program Administrator with the State Department of Health. Samantha Pearson, Executive Director, Elm Street Manager from the Lewisburg Neighborhoods Corporation. The fact that she's coming here and she's from another town brings up the natural question, are there other towns that have considered or have gotten a little bit further down the road, if you will, in incorporating this whole concept into the way that their towns operate? And then the question that comes from that is, how has it worked for them?
Yeah, it's really a movement. It's a nationwide movement, the Complete Streets movement, and there are a lot of communities in Pennsylvania, municipalities really jumping in on it. The city of Reading recently got an award on their Complete Streets policy that they enacted, so there are a lot of PA municipalities looking to institute Complete Streets policies. The reason we're out here is to really promulgate more and more that this is important for communities to at the very least engage in a discussion about how do we do it, and then also best practices on how to design roads and to make it work. I feel like ultimately in Pennsylvania you have local elected officials making decisions for communities, and many times they volunteer their time. So our mission with the Boroughs Association is to empower them with the knowledge they need to be able to be informed to make those decisions. Yeah. And that's why we have programs like we had today. So we were really happy how it all came together.
And Barb and Jeff, of course, that's a tremendous resource for Indiana Borough and for the entire region.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why LINC is really happy to be part of the sponsorship of this event tonight. And we want people to come and have a conversation. Even if you don't have questions, you can come and listen and to hear the experts and their recommendations and what has worked and what hasn't worked in other communities, and how we can do how we can do the best job possible here in Indiana.
Yeah, and Jeff, of course, from the county's standpoint, this is just a one piece of a very complicated puzzle, but it's a very important piece, isn't it?
You say complicated, and I would say it seems to me that it's not complicated. It just seems like there's tons of stuff going on, and I think that's what you're getting at. Yeah, you're right. The county has a bicycle pedestrian plan. We think about and plan for roads to accommodate all modes, and it just takes a lot of time. But I think one of the places that we've tried to focus is in our urban areas. So if you look at Indiana Borough, there's tons of people in Indiana Borough, and but there's also smaller communities out there that are doing some neat stuff with walkworks, like Glen Campbell and Blairsville and Clymer have been doing some things to kind of reclaim those roads and get people out there and using them in things other than just their cars. The one thing that I just think is really important is that this event tonight, which Complete Streets, Craft Beers and Conversation, is really the last part of our spring offering for our Planning Commission University. One of the things our County Planning Commission and the staff for them, I think I can speak a little bit for them, they've been working very hard to try to work with other planning commissions across the county. We have, I think, 6 other planning commissions, and other planners, citizen planners that are just out there trying to think about the future and how to make their communities better. And so what Planning Commission University is about is getting those folks in the same room with experts, like the partnership with the Boroughs Association, bringing in the experts, and then just letting that conversation evolve. So in a lot of ways, it's facilitation. I don't feel like an expert at all. I just feel like you get all the right people in the room, they'll start talking, and good things will happen.
Sure.
So
opening up channels, very important. Josh, I'm sure that's what you do when you visit communities such as Indiana, all around the state. Indiana, I don't want to say compare Indiana to some of the other communities, but as you take a look at what this town has to offer, I'm sure that from a Boroughs Association standpoint, it has to be pretty exciting. This town's really, it looks sharp, but there's some real potential here.
Absolutely. I mean, you see all across Pennsylvania where you have universities and communities in a partnership, and I think that's the first thing you think about here, where you have a community and you have a university partnering to meet each other's needs, and there's a lot of positive things that can come out of that. So you see that all across Pennsylvania, and I think Indiana from what I've seen, has really leveraged this movement for people interested in walking and people interested in being able to get out in their community, not having to drive to the coffee shop, wanting to be able to walk a couple blocks down and have that being a comfortable experience for them. I think, from what I've seen here, that you're really making some great progress on that, and that's the message we're pushing out all across the state is why not leverage this movement when people want to see communities that cater to walking and biking, and again, not just having to jump in your car to drive everywhere. And I think it's something that our borough communities and just communities in general can leverage to their advantage and attracting residents and businesses to their community. I think Indiana's really doing a fine job.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is when we talk about this, it seems like Indiana would be the ideal size for incorporating some of these ideas. But then you begin to think, smaller communities, Blairsville, Clymer, Homer cities, all of those, these ideas, they translate very, very well to them as well. Smaller towns, smaller blocks, easier walks.
Absolutely, and it's a context specific. There's never a cookie cutter solution, and we always try almost universally whenever you're thinking about meeting a need or finding a solution. You never want to find something that's a cookie cutter thing that the next community did over. I mean, you don't ever want to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, you always have to look at context and what's the context of a community. What might work really well here for Indiana may not work really well for an adjacent community. It may, but you have to always evaluate the individual circumstances in a community, and that's the planning process that we were talking about, having experts and those thought leaders in those areas of street design, et cetera, being able to help guide you through the process, but also you having enough knowledge, you being the elected officials and the community stakeholders, enough knowledge to help steer them for your own vision for your community. So there's a lot to be excited about when you do this kind of planning.
Well, that process continues tonight. Again, the event is happening at Levity Brewing, 1380 Wayne Avenue. Complete streets, craft beers, and conversation. No cost, correct?
No cost.
Anybody can come. Anybody can come and take part in the conversation or simply observe and form your own thoughts. Thanks so much to all of you for coming over. This was last minute. I mean, I got the email this morning saying, hey, can we come? I said, you bet you can. So I'm glad you're all able to clear up this time frame that you could come and visit with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Our pleasure. It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.